Some breaking news tonight. The desperation of the Harris campaign has reached new lows, but what they didn't expect was a 94-year-old Auschwitz survivor to step forward and completely demolish their narrative. This powerful testimony from someone who actually lived through real fascism is sending shockwaves through the Democrat establishment and is trending wildly on X. Millions upon millions of views. Even CNN's anchors are melting down as their carefully crafted narrative crumbles in real time. So wait until you see what this survivor said. Now, speaking of false narratives, here's something the establishment doesn't want you to know. Just like they're trying to rewrite history with their false accusations, they're trying to hide the truth about what happens on our roads. Every day, innocent drivers are blamed for accidents they didn't cause. That's why I trust CarVision X's 4K dash cam to protect me from false claims. With crystal clear night vision 24/7 recording, captures the truth they can't deny. Visit carvisionx.com now. It's linked below. You'll get free shipping and see why the deep state fears an informed citizenry. Now, let's set the stage. Okay, we played this yesterday, but we're going to play it again because we need to add the context because, that's what YouTube needs. Context. You have to provide context, and we're going to provide that context for you. So let's set the stage with the disgusting remarks from Kamala Harris.
It really is. So yesterday we learned that Donald Trump's...
And again, I will bring up the point. You can see it right there. She is standing behind the vice presidential seal in her official capacity. And she's delivering a campaign speech, which is a clear violation of the Hatch Act.
Former Chief of Staff John Kelly, a retired four-star general, confirmed that while Donald Trump was president, he said he wanted generals like Adolf Hitler had. Donald Trump said that because he does not want a military that is loyal to the United States Constitution. He wants a military that is loyal to him.
So, setting the stage. Now, what they didn't anticipate was this. An Auschwitz survivor just tore Kamala Harris to pieces. Look at this. I saw this today. I'm like, I couldn't believe that there's still survivors out there, but here he is.
Adolf Hitler. My name is Jerry Wartsky. I'm 94 years old and survivor of Auschwitz and the death marches. Adolf Hitler invaded Poland when I was 9 years old. He murdered my parents and most of our family. I know more about Hitler than Kamala will ever know in 1,000 lifetimes. For her to accuse President Trump of being like Hitler is the worst thing I've ever heard in my 75 years living in the United States. I know President Trump, and he would never say this, and Kamala Harris knows this. She owes my parents and everybody else who was murdered by Hitler an apology for repeating this lie.
Why should the Jewish people support President Trump?
Because he's a mensch. I believe that President Trump is definitely going to be good for Israel because in everything that he's done up to now was in favor. He never double-crossed anyone, and he never showed any weakness. Watching President Trump pray for the hostages at the Ohel and getting to spend time with him so meaningful. He has always stood with the Jewish people and the state of Israel.
Look at that. That is an official ad pushing back on Kamala Harris's disgusting official statement. Right there. The words of a Holocaust survivor. And this is the meltdown that we're witnessing. It's happening in real time. One of the folks who loves to attack President Trump, who used to fawn over him, Mika Brzezinski on The Morning Joe.
Against his, as important as Trump's fascism is, and is the lead story every day, his cozying up to dictators, his obsession with Hitler that has now come out, what he has said about our veterans, and what he wants to do with the military against his political adversaries. It's all huge news. This is the future that we're looking at in the next Trump term, if there is one. But this is what voters know right now, that he is killing us. I'm talking about us women. He's killing us. He is putting us at risk. He is making us afraid to have babies. He is putting our reproductive health at risk, and some women have died already because of this. So we can see right now what's coming. These headlines, and very good reporting, by the way, that shouldn't be questioned by idiots about what Trump has said about Hitler.
Shouldn't be questioned. This reporting should not be questioned. Take it as the gospel truth. Yeah, she wants you to take the Atlantic's story about Trump wanting to have Hitlerian generals worshiping at his feet. Don't question that. But how come that statement came out with less than 2 weeks to go in the election? How come the guy didn't say it the last time? Why didn't he say it in the 2020 election? I mean, if he was such a bad guy, we're hearing about it now? What you are witnessing is the pure desperation, the last gasps of a dying political party holding on to every single thread as it unravels right before them. They see the polls, they see the writing on the wall, and they are freaking out. And Mika Brzezinski, what's crazy is, again, I remember Mika, she used to love Donald Trump. She'd fawn over Donald Trump. I mean, her and Joe Scarborough, I mean, like, they were having an affair, and then while they were on the show, and then they divorced their spouses, and then they married each other. I mean, I think Mika Brzezinski would have loved nothing more to have been Donald Trump's next piece of arm candy. Okay? But she had to settle for Joe Scarborough. Right? So that's why she was always flirting with him, always, oh, I love you, Donald Trump. And now he's like this master, this nasty Nazi in their mind. We've also got RFK. Let's see what RFK had to say. This was Donald Trump on True Social. Now, again, we have MSNBC spewing fear. We have Hillary Clinton spewing fear. But there is one thing to be said about what's something you should really be concerned about. Okay? There's one thing that's fear-based desperation, and there's another thing that's fear-based reality and concern. See, the fear that they're spewing on the left is all manufactured, it's artificial, it's true fake news. And that's why it has no weight. There's nothing behind it. But what you're going to see here, I'll play a clip of this RFK that he just shared, Donald Trump today, that makes it so important.
As if you want to avoid nuclear war, I strongly urge you to vote for Donald Trump. In fact, I would go so far as to say that a vote for Kamala Harris is a vote for nuclear war. Here are some of my reasons for saying that. Former Vice President Dick Cheney endorsed Kamala, and she said she was honored to have his approval. Dick Cheney was the driving force behind a group called the Neocons, which started the Iraq War, in which the U.S. launched an unprovoked preemptive attack, the first in its history, in order to prevent Saddam Hussein from threatening the world with weapons of mass destruction. As history now shows, there were no weapons of mass destruction. It was all a neocon lie. Most estimates are that over 1 million Iraqis died, while the USA and allied forces suffered over 4,800 deaths and over 32,000 wounded. We killed more Iraqis than Saddam Hussein ever did. This fraction of our military and intelligence establishment that we call the neocons, led by Dick Cheney, faked the evidence of weapons of mass destruction because they wanted a war. In 1961, President Eisenhower warned the American people of the dangers of the emerging military-industrial complex that would try to embroil us in a nuclear war with Russia. He pointed out that these warmongering elements in the Pentagon and intelligence apparatus relished war and reveled in it, including nuclear war. My uncle, President John F. Kennedy, confronted his own Joint Chiefs of Staff and his intelligence officials who proposed to fake the shooting down of an American civilian airliner and blame it on Cuba in order to justify a nuclear war with Russia.
He's talking about Operation Northwoods. Look it up.
He stood up to them and refused to go along. President Kennedy was shocked by another military proposal to launch a surprise nuclear attack on the Soviet Union. The uniform meant that the USA would win because the Soviets would suffer over 130 million deaths, while in America, only 30 million would die. After John Kennedy's assassination, the Gulf of Tonkin incident was used to justify war on Vietnam. It wasn't until almost 40 years later that it was shown conclusively to be untrue. The North Vietnamese did not attack our warships on August 4th, 1964. Intelligence about the Gulf of Tonkin incident was faked because a fraction of our military-industrial establishment wanted that war. I'm concerned that today, not only do we have a faction of our military and intelligence establishments that desire war, they want a war right now with Russia over Ukraine. Russia is the largest nuclear power on Earth. It has over 1,000 more nuclear weapons than we do, and many of them are better than our best weapons. President Biden came within an inch of giving authorization to the Ukrainians to use American-guided missiles to fire deep into Russian territory. The Russians, in response, changed their law to allow them to respond with a nuclear attack, and the world was never closer to full-scale nuclear war. Can you imagine if the Mexican army was being backed by the Russians to launch Russian-guided missiles into American territory, hitting cities, hydroelectric dams, and nuclear power plants? Would the USA attack Russia in retaliation? It would be a miracle if we didn't. Kamala Harris is inexperienced in foreign policy, and her belligerent and hostile remarks about Russia during her acceptance speech at the Democratic Convention were extremely alarming. Those words demonstrated that she would be a perfect pushover, a puppet for the military intelligence faction that wants this war. We don't need a president who is so weak that she needs to prove her strength to the American people by sacrificing the life of American military personnel in foreign engagements abroad. Donald Trump has repeatedly said that he would negotiate with Putin to end the Ukraine war. If JFK were alive today, he would be standing side by side with President Trump on this issue. My uncle said the most important thing that we can do is to talk to our adversaries. That's why he installed a hotline in the White House and in his home at Hyannisport so he could communicate directly with Khrushchev. A vote today for Kamala Harris is a vote for Dick Cheney, who lied to get a war started in which more than 1 million people died. Nuclear war today would mean billions of people dead. A recent study predicts that World War III will last only 73 minutes, and that in that time, 5.8 billion human beings will die. And as JFK said, those who survive a nuclear war will envy the dead. If what I've said here makes sense to you, I urge you to contribute to help me get this message to millions more of our fellow citizens. The election is right around the corner, and the danger is very real. Please donate as much as you can today.
Make America healthy again. I wasn't going to play that whole clip, but I was captivated by his message, and I stand 100% behind him. A vote for Kamala Harris, the one who says that Donald Trump is going to be like Hitler, is a vote for war. And the left is in panic mode. Here's what Donald Trump said. Does this sound like a fascist Nazi dictator to you?
Kamala also launched a war on tip workers and service workers here in Nevada, increasing the so-called tip. You know, she wants this. When I said no tax on tips, remember? A month later, she comes out, and we will have no tax on tips. She never said that. And she's never said it again. You're not going to get it. We're going to have no tax on tips. She wanted to increase and did increase the so-called tip allocation tax rate by 60%. She raised your tax, and then she's supposed to say, no tax on tips. In other words, even after Kamala wrecked your economy with inflation, she came after you with tip income, sort of like a vulture would do. If she gets 4 more years, Kamala Harris will pick your pocket spare. By contrast, I will massively cut taxes for workers, and in particular, we will have no tax on tips, no tax on overtime, and no tax on Social Security benefits for our great seniors.
No tax on tips, no tax on overtime, no tax on Social Security. I mean, think about how, if you're a senior and you're collecting Social Security right now, you must be infuriated that you have to pay taxes on Social Security. I couldn't even imagine. I mean, I remember when I got my first paycheck and I saw the taxes were taken. I'm like, what is all this? What is all this? My first pay stub, I couldn't believe it. I took it to my parents and I asked them, well, welcome to America, they said. So, does that sound like a fascist to you? No, it sounds like somebody who wants to free us from the tax enslavement that has been brought down by the Federal Reserve and the IRS. And now he's talking about abolishing the income tax altogether and moving to a tariff-based system, which is something that would change the game 100%. He said here on Truth Social, Comrade Kamala Harris sees that she is losing badly, especially after stealing the race from crooked Joe Biden. So now she's increasingly raising her rhetoric, going so far as to call me Adolf Hitler and anything else that comes to her warped mind. She is a threat to democracy and not fit to be president of the United States, and her polling so indicates. Bruce Barr, 4 hours ago, even after Joe Biden and Kamala Harris have thrown the entirety of the FBI and DOJ at him, Trump announced today he would consider pardoning Hunter Biden of his gun and tax felonies if elected, and he's doing it in the name of unity. Yeah, that's the worst fascist ever. Donald Trump is extending an olive branch to Hunter Biden. He would pardon him. That's if Joe Biden doesn't pardon him before he's kicked out of office. Here's CNN losing it after Shark Tank's Kevin O'Leary points out that Kamala Harris was not actually nominated. Now, I'm playing this for you because this is the action of an authoritarian dictatorship. That they installed Kamala Harris. All those Democrat voters, it was a bait and switch, and she was just installed. Listen.
Hillary Clinton, I would like you to introduce the concept of the panel tonight. It's going to be a short dissertation, but I want you to think about this because I watched like you did yesterday, and something hit me pretty hard. Only 90 days ago, Pelosi went to Biden and said, you need to step aside, and convinced him to do so. He made the decision, and he did actually ask her, and we've now learned this, is she the right person to drive this home? He questioned that. He could have said, we need to run a process in order for me to make this move. But they decided not to. I don't know who they is. Was it Obama? Was it Pelosi? I don't care who it was. In stock picking, just listen to this analogy. And you may agree, you may not. 88% of managers, because this is the world I live in, cannot beat the S&P year in, year out. So you give them $1,000, the S&P beats them. They can't pick stocks. This is the second time the Democratic Party has circumvented democracy and chose.
That's not true.
Yes, it is. Hillary Clinton was chosen, and she had Bruce Springsteen too. And what happened to her? And now we've chosen.
Kevin, Hillary Clinton won a primary. Okay, she won a primary. You may not.
Nobody could compete with her, even Bernie Sanders.
She won a primary. Okay. First of all, that's the first.
So
thing.
did Kamala Harris win a primary?
Listen, we've talked about this before.
What's wrong about talking about it tonight after what you just saw?
Do you think that's really what matters to voters?
Right now.
How many Democrats wish?
Your whole shtick has
hang on a second.
Let's talk about what matters to voters. Do you really think voters care about the internecine primary process?
If you're a Democrat, you sure as hell care today.
I know that you are from Canada, but the primary process.
That's why I'm perfect for this. I have no skin in the game other than to get a great president.
It's not in the Constitution. The political parties can choose however they want to choose their nominee.
Right.
And as long as they meet the legal deadlines in the states where they are on the ballot, they can do it however they want.
But I just want to be transparent. Yes, I was born in Canada, but
December 2023 to just handpick somebody.
Just to be transparent, I was born in Canada.
It's a Democratic Party process, not a Democratic.
No, but my kids were born and raised in Boston. All my investments in the United States. I want the president, whoever it is, to be a winner.
You're describing something as undemocratic that has absolutely nothing to do with the democratic process.
So, you see that? They are in total panic mode over there, even at CNN. Unbelievable. Continuing, I think we got a couple more notes to hit here. Okay, this is the icing on the cake. This clip has been circulating, and this explains exactly why Kamala and the left invoke Hitler and fascist. Are you ready? Watch this. This is the great G. Edward Griffin.
And used in 1943, the following directive was issued from party headquarters to all communists in the United States. It read, "When certain obstructionists become too irritating, label them after suitable build-ups as fascist or Nazi or anti-Semitic, and use the prestige of anti-fascist and tolerance organizations to discredit them. In the public mind, constantly associate those who oppose us with those names which already have a bad smell. The association will, after enough repetition, become fact in the public mind." In 1943, the following directive was issued from party headquarters to all communists in the United States. It read, "When certain obstructionists become too irritating, label them after suitable build-ups as fascist or Nazi or anti-Semitic, and use the prestige of anti-fascist and tolerance organizations to discredit them. In the public mind, constantly associate those who oppose us with those names which already have a bad smell. The association will, after enough repetition, become fact in the public mind."
So, that's the playbook that is being executed right now. So, as we've seen, those who actually survive real fascism are speaking out against these desperate political attacks, while Harris and her allies continue to push their false narrative. More Americans are waking up to the truth. The question we need to ask ourselves is simple. Why are they so terrified of letting Trump speak at Madison Square Garden? Drop your thoughts in the comments. Who do you think is really threatening democracy, threatening our republic? I want to hear from you.